the Jewish history and the rabbinic history, the structure in of itself over here. It's another special edition. We've spoken about various countries from all over the world already. We've already spoken about places like India, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Kosovo, Malta, various different countries. And today we're going to speak about the Jewish community in Peru, a special edition over here. And it dates back, the Jewish community of Peru, all the way back to the Spanish period. Obviously, the migration of flows of Sephardic Jews from Europe, the Near East, and Northern Africa also respectively. Now, this small community virtually disappeared as a result of the Inquisition and was only revived two migratory waves that took place during the late 19th century and early mid-20th century, with a number of both Sephardic and Ashkenazic Jewish people arriving to northeastern Iquitos, let's just say, due to the Amazon rubber boom, as well as the country's capital, Lima, through neighboring Calalao, where obviously they also settled during the Second World War also respectively. Now, the small community in and around the Iquitos is known as the Amazonian Jews, most of which have established themselves in Israel, especially since the 20th century. In Lima, the community is based in the upper class, let's just say, districts of San Isidro and Miraflores, where a number of synagogues are located. A synagogue also serves as a community in the southern city of Cuzco, also respectively. Okay, so very, very interesting. So we've talked about the Jewish conversos that arrived in the time of the Spanish conquest of the Inca. This was empire. Then only Christians were allowed to take part in expeditions to New World at that point in time. At first, they had lived without restrictions before the Inquisition was not active in Peru at the beginning of the, let's say, vice royalty, respectively. According, I think, the Jewish Virtual Library, which is a very good resource in regards to Jewish history, the original attraction for Jews to come to Peru was the mineral potential over there. You know, many people saw opportunities, that was it. Many Jews had come to Portugal, disregarding, let's say, the immigration restrictions at that point in time, that was placed at that time. And this action would be used in trials against some of the crypto Jews who faced tribunal of Lima, further adding on a penalty to their actions. Now, there was an office, you could say the Holy Office of the Inquisition, established in an office in Lima. I think it was in January the 9th in the year in 1570. At that point in time, there was a Christian population of the area to identify non-Catholics, such as Jews, Lutherans, and Muslims. Consequently, new Christians began to be persecuted and in some cases executed even. Descendants of Jews were sometimes called, unfortunately, very bad names. You see the anti-Semitism around, Moranos. I don't want to say it over here, what that translates, leave you to it. Or converts, or as conversos. And Christian nuevos, they were actually called. New Christians. Even if they had been reared as Catholics from birth, crypto Jews, self-proclaimed Catholics, who would secretly adhere to Judaism, were the initial targets of the tribunal and punished, tortured, or killed if caught. Some avoided tribunals by immigrating out of Spanish territories, such as Peru, respectively. That's interesting. To escape persecution, the conversos settled mainly in northern highlands and northern high jungle. They intermarried over here with natives of the non-Jewish Europeans, mainly, let's say, Spanish and Portuguese people. In some areas, noting to the local population in an area called Cajimacaro, the northern highlands of Piura, or Ayabaca, or Hayabacamba, I hope I pronounced it right. Among others, due to there was cultural and there was also, as I said at the point, ethnic contact with people of the southern highlands of Ecuador. Now, it's interesting, their mixed race descendants, known today as the Amazonian Jews, were reared with syncretic Catholic, Jewish, European, and Andean rituals and beliefs. Now, there was a historian, someone named Anna Sposhkinik, I hope I pronounced the name correctly. She said, I had actually stated, the stages of the trial followed a sequence of denunciation, deposition, imprisonment, hearings, accusation, torture, confession, defense, publication, and sentence, and the auto at that point in time. Now, the auto de fe were occasional public ceremony or punishments made through the Inquisition at that point in time. The punishment included being burnt to the stake. You can see the anti-Semitism, whipping, and being exiled. The trial had started with the accused being convicted of crime at that stage in time. So that's very, very, you just see to escape persecution, the converts, or the conversos, settled mainly in the northern highlands and northern high jungle. They intermarried with natives and non-European Jewish Europeans, mainly Spanish and Portuguese people. And in some areas, I think everything of the local population in Cachemiro, in the northern highlands, in Peru, among others, due to cultural and ethnic conduct with people of the southern highlands of Ecuador. Their mixed-race descendants, known today as the Amazonian Jews, were reared with syncretic Catholic, Jewish, European, and Andean rituals, like we stated before over here. So just to do some things over there. So we talked about the tribunal had often used connections of viceroyalty to gain information of the new Christians, let's just say, about their past actions in other Spanish colonials. This was the case of John Vincent, who was, let's say, a Portuguese new Christian who had previously been renounced but was put into trial in the year 1603. His previous actions in Brazil, Potosi, and in Tucumán had been shared by the viceroyalties in all those regions. The genealogies of the crypto-Jews were accessible through this connection, making it possible to accurately see who were new Christians. Since actions, let's say, of the accused was not documented, the accused new Christians in court would not prove their statements. While the viceroyalty could obtain all the documentation needed in the trial. Now, in most trials, the new accused Christians would not give up the names of others, let's just say, who were also known as Judaizing over here, until they were tortured. Now, after days of periods of torture, most crypto-Jews gave up their crypto-Jewish up to the tribunal at that point in time. For example, there was someone of the name Mencia de Luna, who had said during the trial, tell notaries of the tribunal to write whatever they wanted in her declaration, so that her suffering would come to an end. Now, Schapos Schnick, as I mentioned before, the historian, also states that from recorded accounts from, I think, the years 1635 to 1639 of the new Christian Portuguese, as many as 110 people were arrested due to the alleged connection to the Great Jewish Conspiracy, with many having reconciled their faith to Christianity, along with being exiled and facing confiscation of property. I'm reading just from Wikipedia over here, the sources here. He stated, or states, as a result of the auto-general defeat, the community of Portuguese new Christians in Lima were decimated. It is said that up to 11 people, unfortunately, were burned at the stake as they did not confess to committing any Judaic practices over here. Anyone that's tuning in, please subscribe to the channel. We're exploring the history of the Peru Jewish community, so please subscribe and click the like button now to the channel. Let's explore a bit within regards to the 19th century, friends. Now, in the 19th century, 1800s, during the last decades of the 19th century, many Sephardi Jews from Morocco immigrated to Loreto as traders and trappers, working, I think, with the natives. The first was someone named Alfredo, I'm not sure his last name, Combla, I'm not too sure. He arrived in 1880 in the port of the Urumagius, and I think starting in the year 1885, the Amazon rubber boom attracted even greater numbers of Sephardi Jews from North Africa as well as Europeans. Many would settle at that point in time in Iquitos, which was the Peruvian center, let's just say, for the export of rubber along the Amazon River. They created the second organized Jewish community in Peru after Lima, founding over there a Jewish cemetery and a synagogue. After the boom fizzled, due to, I think at that point in time, there was competition from Southeast Asia, many European and North African Jews left Iquitos. Those who remained over generations have eventually married native women. Their mixed race or mestizo descendants grew up in the local culture, a mixture of Jewish and Amazonian influences and faiths, and are known as Amazonian Jews, respectively. In 1870, the Sociedad Hebrew de, I'm not sure the entire name, Ber, it starts with that, sorry, but I should have been more prepared about that, was formally founded, please, everyone knows that, the full name, please let me know, was formally founded by Jewish people wishing to organize a proper burial rituals and financial compensation for families of 10 Jews who died of yellow fever in the year 1868, who were buried in the British cemetery of Kala'au. A provisional directory had been, let's say, established in April 1869 under the leadership of someone named Jacob Hertzberg and Miguel Bat, but the society under presidency of the Natatius Horowitz, who was accompanied by Paul Asher and Jacobo Brillman, was only officially recognized. This was on July the 1st, 1873. On March 1875, the first stone of the Campo Santo Israelita di Bacugeno was placed in the terrain acquired from a US businessman, United States businessman, someone named Henry Megis, in what was Bacugeno farm located at La Liga Valley. Very interesting. Now it's actually interesting. I think in Lima there was a small number of Ashkenazic Jews that left Europe and let's say the United States of America, and coming in, they would come in banking, commerce, infrastructure, among other lines of work. In 1875, the number of Jews in Lima was 300, of which 55% of them were from Germany, 15% were from France, 10% were from England, 10% from Russia, and 20% from other backgrounds. A notable resident at the time was Augusto Dreyfus, who had signed a contract with the Peruvian government to acquire 2 million tons of guano. The War of the Pacific, which took place from 1879 until I think I'm not too sure the exact year, 1883, I think 4 or 5 years, if I'm not mistaken, also interrupted any immigration during this specific period. By the year 1890, it was estimated that around 200 Jews lived inside the country. Now, let's explore a bit within regards to the 20th century. Now, we know during the 20th century, Sephardic Jews from the Ottoman Empire, as well as, I think, from Morocco, maybe from Greece and Egypt, migrated, I think, to Peru and found, in 1912, some Ashkenazi Jews, let's just say, mostly the Western and Eastern Slavic areas, and from Hungary, also made the same voyage, chiefly to the capital of Lima. The Jewish-German Sociedad de Beneficio Israelita saw separation with the Sephardic Sociedad de Beneficio Israelita Sephardi. This was, I think, on November the 9th in the year 1920, which was officially registered on November the 24th in the year 1925, inaugurating its premises in Santa Beatriz on September the 17th in the year 1933. And that's interesting. Meanwhile, the Ashkenazi Union Israelita de Peru was founded at the Chirmoyo neighborhood on July the 11th, 1923. This was officially registered, I think, in November the 16th, 1929. The Organización Sionista del Peru. It was a Zionistic organization that sought to reunite all of Peruvian Jewry, which was established actually in the year 1925. Now it's interesting, until the 1930s, there were no synagogues in Peru due to the community only celebrating high holy days, reported over at that point in time. Correct me if I'm wrong, if anyone knows any other information. Just reading from Wikipedia here as a source. During this decade, the Union Israelita del Peru, the Ashkenazi Congregation of Peru, established in 1923, hired a man of the name Rabbi Abraham Moshe Brenner, who was a Polish rabbi, to perform Jewish rituals over there in the country. He arrived in Lima in the year 1934. He would oversee the rituals of all Jewish denominations up until the year 1950, when the Sephardic Congregation, established in 1928, hired someone of the name Rabbi Abraham Shalom, I think was rabbi. And in 1957, another rabbi, Rabbi Lothar Goldstein, was hired by the German Israelite Society at that stage in time, which is very, very interesting. Now, just speak more. During the 1930s, the community saw itself negatively affected with the establishment of the Revolutionary Union at that stage in time. It would have, let's say, a huge impact at that point in time. I think this was around the 1930s. There was, unfortunately, a fascist political party which was founded by someone of the name Luis Miguel Sanchez Quero, who served as a president from 1931 over here. So very, very interestingly enough, over here. Yo, how's it going?
Yo, brother.
Yeah, just doing a live video. I get to record with it in a few minutes.
Oh, what's up,
15
man?
minutes, yeah?
Oh, of course. Yeah, that's
But always something I'm going to see. I see you're from Peru? Because I'm recording. I'm just recording history video of the Jews of Peru.
Oh.
As we speak. Are you around in 20 minutes?
I should be. Come
So you're in here?
Yeah, I'm here. I'll be
So just recording this live video. So if you've got a clip, like a short device, or some inspiration,
love to.
it'll be great to include you in the series. Amazing. Okay, friends, sorry about that. I just saw an old friend over here, so we're just going to continue this video over here, friends. Over here. And yeah, amazing. Okay, so friends, sorry about that. We'll continue. Now we're talking about 1930s territory over here. The community saw itself, let's say, negatively affected with the establishment of the Revolutionary Union. And at that point in time, I think there was a fascist political party which was founded by Luis Miguel Sanchez Quero, who served as a president between the year 1931 until the assassination in 1933. Now, there was a man of the name Luis A. Flores assumed the party's leadership following his death, and leading it towards a more radical shift, let's say, in ideology. For logistic reasons and in response to growing anti-Jewish sentiment, I think Director de la Colectividad Israel del Peru was established on February the 4th, 1942. That was actually presided by someone named Max Heller. Very interesting now. I think it's actually interesting. There was logistical reasons, and in response to growing anti-Jewish sentiment, the Director de la Colectividad Israelite, I think at that point in time, del Peru, was established on February the 4th, 1942, at that stage in time. Very interesting. Anyone that's tuning in at the moment, we're exploring the Jewish history of Peru, the country Peru, at the moment. So please subscribe to the channel, join the community. Please subscribe now and click the like button over here. Now, a community to build a Jewish school was formed in the year March 1945. That was headed by Israel Brodsky and inaugurated by Leon Pinello School on April the 24th, 1946. This was located at the 1241 General Varela Street, and whose first honorary director was someone named Manuel Beltroy. The school later moved to 610 Los Manzanos, and it's actually interesting, another pro-Hebrew Palestine committee was established on June 27th, 1945. This will be headed by Jose Galvez Barrenechea and composed of people such as Louis Valcarcel and Cesar Miro, among others. That'll be very, very interesting. Now we're talking all about the history of the Jewish people from Peru over here. So please subscribe to the channel and click the like button and join the community. So please subscribe now and enjoy. Now let's just continue over here. The Union Israelite saw the separation of three Orthodox groups who would, reports over, would oppose, let's say, or would debate Brenner and open synagogues of their own. Knesset Israel separated in the year 1942. That was led by Leib Feinstein, and Adat Yisrael did the same in the year 1953, which was reported over, led by Abraham Shapiro Klein, and returning, I think, one-room house of Bolivia. And I think it belonged to someone, a member of the name James Portnoy, if I'm not mistaken also, which is another interesting thing. On the High Holy Days of the same year, I think it was in July the 29th, if I'm not mistaken, they inaugurated a synagogue of their own at 542, I think in Quick Street in Chacra, Colorado, a neighborhood in Brenner, one of the city's districts. It was commonly known, I think, also as a Mandel Synagogue, after the family of the same name affiliated to the group. The last group to separate was Sharon. The congregation eventually unified again, starting with the dissolution and reincorporation of the members of Knesset Israel and Adat Israel, and that would follow by a process of integration between Sharon and Union Israelite that started in 1987. I think there was an inventory of the synagogue of the Union Israelite located at Brazil Avenue, which was moved to the former location in San Isidro. Very interesting enough. Now, I think it was during the Second World War, the Consul General of Peru in Geneva, Jose Mario Barreto, secretly issued passports to groups of Jews, which included prisoners at the concentration camp in the German-occupied French city of Vitel. The Peruvian government at the time had forbidden its diplomatic commissions to issue visas to Jewish refugees, and an order that Barreto ignored. And I think it was in the year 2014 he was posthumely recognized as righteous among the nations. According to the World Jewish Congress, 650 Jews fled to Peru during this period. Okay, now let's explore a few synagogues. We're going to speak more about in detail about further synagogues. I think during the early 1950s, Jewish community in Lima and Cala was distributed as follows. There was in Bella Vista, there was a location Jewish cemetery founded by the German Jews in 1875. In an area called Brenna, there were two synagogues belonging to the Ashkenazi community. They were located at Liquick and Malva Street, both located in Chacra, Colorado. In Jesus Maria, there was a synagogue belonging to the Sephardic community, which was located at the intersection of Enrique Villa and Carlos Aretia streets prior to moving to San Isidro during the early 2000s over there. And in Lima, there was a Bodega Universal, a Jewish pastry shop owned by Isaac Goldenberg and Jose Schneider, was located at the intersection of Camana and Juan Cavalicia Street, also serving as a meeting place for local Jews. In Linz, I think at the time, Leon Pinello School was located at the intersection of the Huseres de Junin Street on the 15th block of Brazil Avenue over there. Also the site of the synagogue, I think it operated actually from 1958 till 1987, interesting enough. It had moved, I think, to its original location at Carlos Arieta in Brenna, and later moved to the current location in San Isidro. Okay, let's continue over here. I think starting in 1950, I think the Jews of Peru at that point in time, they were involvement in more in the economy and a number of white-collar workplaces. There was strong interest, as you say, in Zionism at that point in time. Also took the community. There were two youth organizations that were formed to prepare young Jews to emigrate to Israel. Beitar, obviously, located at the synagogue in Liquick Street, and Hanoah Hatzioni, another Zionistic organization, located at Leon Pinello School. Marcus Reutemann, an ardent Jewish Peruvian Zionist, was nominated as honorary consul of Israel in 1951. Inaugurating the consulate of Coronamena Avenue in late 1953, relations between both countries were then elevated to legation level in 1956 and to embassy level in 1958, with Tuvia Arazi serving as Israel's first ambassador. There was massive immigration to Israel that began after the Six-Day War in 1967, similar to the other Latin American countries. Now, I think there was a trip to Iquitos in 1948-1949. The Argentine Israeli geologist, someone named Alfredo Rosenzweig, had noticed that the Amazonian Jews were almost a hidden community due to their geographical separation from Lima and the city's inaccessibility by road. At the time, Rosenzweig, they would visit. I'm just going to take a short break for a minute. Hold on a minute. Okay, sorry, just a short break over there. We're just continuing the history of the Peru Jewish community. Okay, so we're talking about Alfredo Rosenzweig had noted that Amazonian Jews were almost a hidden community due to the geographical separation from Lima and cities' inaccessibility by road. At the same time that Rosenzweig visited the community, he did not have a Jewish school, I think, over there. I think there was a synagogue though. Most Amazonian Jews in Iquitos are of Christian origin and consider themselves to be a mix between Christians and Jews. It is believed that it was due to the fact that most immigrant Jews who had come to Iquitos in the 19th century were single men who then married Christian women of Iquitos. In the 1950s and 1960s, the Jews of Iquitos had almost disappeared due to the mass immigration of Lima. The community of Iquitos Jews had not been recognized by the rest of Peru until the 1980s, when Rabbi Guillermo Bronstein, who was then the chief rabbi of the Association of the Julio del Peru in Lima, was contacted by the Iquitos Jews and visited the community in 1991. Subsequently, they would send resources such as prayer, books, and Jewish texts. In the year 1991, it was, the Sociedad Israelite de Iquitos was established. In 1990, 70 people from Cajamarca was claimed descent from the 10 lost tribes, and thus converted to Judaism. They moved to Israel. Another group followed in 1991, composed of 32 people. On the same year, an indigenous woman married a soon-to-be Israeli rabbi over there. Now, 21st century, let's talk about now. As of 2023, interesting enough, I think there's only 3 organized communities, if I'm not mistaken, in Peru, Lima, Liquitas, and in Cusco. The community is obviously in decline at the moment, having been numbered at 3,000 years prior to 5,000 in the 1970s, but has contributed to country's economy and policies. The majority in Lima are Ashkenazi Jews, whose community was founded in 1934, while others are Sephardic Jews, whose community was founded in 1933. Both communities proclaim themselves as Orthodox. And we talked about, there's, I think currently at the moment, there's 4 synagogues. The Synagogue 1870, I think it's operated by the Sociedad de Beneficio Israelite, the 1870 since 1938. The Synagogue Sharon, which was located on Carlos Paras Osaros in San Isidro, operated once again by the Union Israelia, which continues to represent the Ashkenazi community over there. And then also the Jabad Peru, the Beit Chabad, let's say, functions as a Talmud house and Talmud Torah, and the Sociedad de Beneficio Israel Sephardi over here. I think formerly located in Jesus Marai, the building services the Sephardic community over here. And obviously the Leon Pinello School operates since April 24th, 1946, and serves as the city's only Jewish school, educating 90% of the local Jews over there. Now friends, anyone tuning in, we're exploring the history of the Jewish community of Peru, so please subscribe now to the channel. And there's so much great stuff in this channel over here, so please subscribe. Now the northeastern, okay, yeah, very, very interesting. So as I said before, there's rich Ashkenazi community here and Sephardi community all over the different places here in Peru. They have obviously the Orthodox communities, they say, and very, very interesting communities also. I think the founding members were men, both men and women of different stages of time. And it's actually interesting. I think in the late 20th century, some descendants in Liquitas began to study Judaism and eventually would make formal conversions, especially in 2002, 2004. And there was an American rabbi from Brooklyn that would help them. A few hundred were given permission to make Aliyah to Israel. By 2014, nearly 150 more Liquitas Jews had emigrated to Israel. There were waves, compromises, an estimated 80% of the community in Peru, which now numbers as 50 individuals. I think in Cusco, the community was numbered 200 to 300 people in 2015. Now let's explore a few of the synagogues. Synagogue 1870, what is that? This now we're talking about, I think it was a conservative synagogue, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure if it was an Orthodox or not. I don't know when it says conservative, what it means over here, just using Wikipedia as a source. It's located in Lima, in the district of one of the 4 synagogues in the city, the other 3 being located in San Isidro. So anyone knows, please confirm if this was actually an Orthodox synagogue itself or not. I think it was founded in the late 19th century. So the Sociedad de Beneficio Israel was of 1870 was founded in the 19th century, late time. The first Jews to arrive in Lima, arrival of Jewish German immigrants, especially that started in 1933. In 1938, the Register Society renting an old house in Liberaton Street from British Charity, eventually purchasing it in 1948. Prior to the arrangement, prayers took place at Rabbi Leopoldo Wales' house at 320 Wan Fanning Street it was, and due to the society's increasing membership and the building's age, it was demolished in 1990 and rebuilt in May 2000. The leadership of the synagogue was Leopold Whale, 1930 to 1940, Michael Siegel, 1941-1956, Lothar Goldstein, 1957 to 1966, David Spritzer, 1967 to 1969, Claudio Kaiser, 1970-1976, Zoe Goldick, 1977-1984, and Guillermo Bronstein, 1985. I'm not sure if they were rabbis or not. Once again, I'm not sure if this was an Orthodox shul or not. They said in the article over here that it was predominantly Orthodox synagogues, so that also known. Then there was Synagogue Sharon, which this was an Orthodox synagogue, it's stating, in San Isidro district, one of 3 synagogues in the district and one of 4 in the city, and located in the Miraflores since 1987. It's operated by Union Israelite de Peru, and I think the union itself, it was founded in traditional Chimor neighborhood in 1923, and it was established to represent a new Ashkenazi community which arrived from Eastern Europe, notably from Hungary. Since 1912, they hired the rabbis of Rabbi Moses Brenner, who arrived in 1934, provide countrywide religious services. Interesting enough, the reincarnation process culminated in 1987, and I think, it's very interesting. I think it was moved to Brazil Avenue later on, if I'm not mistaken. They had leaders also, who were the leaders of the Union Israel del Peru, Rabbi Abraham Moses Brenner, Rabbi Boruch Epstein, for 2 years until 1967, Rabbi Eljanan Yamnik, and followed by Rabbi Naftali Rottenberg. Then that will be followed by Rabbi Egil Friedman, Rabbi Yaakov Kraus, 1987 to 1988, Rabbi Evram, I think they were rabbis, so I might be wrong, Ephraim Zik, 1999 to 2002, Menashe Peniel, between 2002 to 2003, Ephraim Zik, 2003 to 2009, Itai Miusha from 2009 to 2016, Solomon Cohen 2016 to 2019, and Rabbi Simon Tov Nigri from 2019 to present. So let's speak a bit about Rabbi Abraham Moshe Brenner. He was a chief rabbi of Lima in Peru. He passed away on January the 5th, 1968. He would serve as a chief rabbi of Lima from the mid-1930s to 1962, and then he would eventually move to Brooklyn, I believe. He was actually born in Poland, if I'm not mistaken. His wife was Rabbinit Chana Schneidel Brenner over there. Very interesting. I think he was an experience as being a mohel, performing Jewish circumcision, a shochet. He was a shliach tzibur, a cantor also, interesting enough. And I think he worked in synagogues, created the Malvaz, Adat Yisrael, Sharon, respectively. He would travel all over the provinces also and served in Lima for 30 years until 1962. And as I said before, he was actually buried, I think, in Jerusalem, but he was retired and moved to New York before he passed away. Let's talk a bit about the current Sephardic community of Lima in Peru, currently using the Legedent.com website over here. I think it's a Sephardic magazine, respectively. They once again, the La Sociedad de Beneficia Israel Sephardi. And they say inside they actually come from Sephardic immigrants that arrived to Peru in the turn of the 20th century. They came from Izmir, Salonika in Greece. Families like Palti, Franco, Shalom and Alcabez are all common in the community itself. Stated over here on the website. Driven to Peru principally for economic opportunity at that point in time, the small community began to flourish and formed in 1920. Come on, 1933, they built, I think, the first Sephardic synagogue in Lima, and the community grew well after World War II, with an influx of a number of Holocaust survivors from Greece and Balkans at that point in time. I think they state over here on the website it's currently 1,000 families strong, a part of the Sephardic community, and it's vibrant for Jewish life in Latin America, practicing many customs and traditions from the Ottoman roots, like services every Shabbat in Ladino, like Benedictio, Su Nombre and Enkelokeno, for example. There is, as well as Sephardic Hazanut. And they state at the time of writing this, 8 years previous to writing this article, they built a new synagogue in the heart of Jewish neighborhood of Lima called the Beit Knesset, Rabbi Abraham Ben Amu, named in honor of the community Chacham. He was a great rabbi for 50 years over there. And they continue to actively engage with Jewish youth, young families, wonderful programming with daily minyan and especially on Shabbat. Now, this magazine also, the Legend, which serves the Peru community over here, let's speak a bit about that. It's a magazine of the Sephardic community in America, and it's a North African community, but they have articles in English and Ladino, respectively, on Sephardic culture, identity, food, and the people of Ladino. They celebrate Sephardic thought from all around the world, especially in Peru also. I think especially from New York to Seattle, Salonika, Mexico City, Cape Town. over here. So they have a publication in the countries. The Gent is the Ladino one. Let's say, I think it started in 1940s with the Sephardic Brotherhood over here. And Sephardic Brotherhood and the community represents America and evolved America, and they work a lot in print and digital research itself respectively. And once again, they write a lot of articles connected to Peru. Now, it's actually interesting. One of the rabbis inaugurated, I believe, in 2025, quite recently, the Sheba Sephardic Center, the Sephardic Center program, rabbinic program. They celebrated in February 2025, 8 rabbis joining across the world. One of them happened to have been in Lima, in Peru. Rabbi James Benman Amar was inaugurated as a rabbi, I think, of the Sephardic synagogue in Lima in Peru. Very interesting enough, in 2025, quite recently, just over 6 months ago. And the senior rabbi, I think, previously had served over 6 decades and was retiring at the year at 90 years old at that point in time. So it will be interesting. Rabbi James Benman Amar will take on to inspire the youth and bring the synagogue into really in a strong state in the 21st century over here. The Morasha website also talks about the Jewish community of Peru, talking about how it was known to bring about flourishing of economic opportunities, better life after much persecution in various countries. Friends, anyone joining in now on this live video, we're exploring the history of the Jewish community of Peru. Please subscribe now to the channel, friends, over here. Now, there was initial difficulties when the Jews came to Peru in the 19th century, and there was someone named Francisco Pizarro. He was, now we're just going back again a bit in the history. He was the Spanish conqueror. He would arrive in the region that's now Peru. He looked for riches. He found the empire weakened by a civil war, and in November 1532, he defeated the Incas, and the region became a Spanish colony, and in 1542, it became part of the viceroyalty of Peru, as we said before. It covered almost all of Spanish rule in the Americans, and we spoke about this literally. A large number of Portuguese Jews arrived in 1535 over there, and there was a lot of mineral wealth to the country. In 1597, just 73 years after Pizarro established a new Spanish colony in the region, local authorities received correspondence insisting that the Court of Inquisition of Lima prevent the entry of Portuguese, or they were known as Portuguese of the Hebrew nation, those kind of Jews over there. Very interesting enough. There was activity in territories of Spanish America, I think through 3 courts of the Holy Inquisition in Lima, Mexico, which was founded in 1569, and Cartagena, founded in 1610. The main objective was to prevent Jews or converts, as well as any other types, to establish themselves in America. Let's talk about the Jews in the jungle over here. In 1909, the Equitas Charity Society was founded in the middle of the Peruvian jungle. And I think it was a businessman of the name Victor Israel from Morocco, who became mayor of the city of Iquitos. Very interesting enough over here. There's a lot of history with regards to the community. Let's just say a few more words before we wrap it up over here. Just a few more interesting things. I think it's interesting. I think in 1989, famously, Rabbi Mordechai Eliyahu will visit Peru at that point in time. Let's talk about it here. I'll just say what it says in Ivrit over here. But Sof 1989, יצאו לפרו בהסכמת הרב ראשי לישראל, הרב מרדכי אליהו, משלחת שכללה את הרב ביוחל מעשיו ואת הרב מרדכי אליהו, אבא דין חיפה. המשלחת התרשמה מהפקדה של בני הקהילת על מצוות התורה ומנחושים להתגייר. בסוף שנות 80 עברו 60 מחברי קהילות ברחב ובלימה גיור. לאחר הגיור שינו סגדנו את שמו לזרובבל צדקיה. בני משה עברו תהליך של גיור אורתודוקסי, ורובם עלו לישראל החל משנות ה-90 והתיישב ביישובים יהודים דתיים, ובהם אלון מורה וכפר תפוח שבמשורון. מנהג קהילה זרובבל צדקיה התגורר בכפר תפוח. I actually got a similar family to me the Zerubbabel actually has over here. So they're also talking about, also in this article, I think it was, very interesting enough. They also talk about over here in this another article I found over here about the 20th century. At the start of the 1900s, הגיעו לפה יהודים ספרדים Turkey. Many Jews came from Turkey to Peru in the early 20th century. Ashkenazi Jews would come from Poland, from Romania, from Russia, especially from 1917. In Sof Milchemet Ha'olam HaRishona, at the end of the First World War, 300 Jews would be in Peru. Rubam B'nima Tos, as we mentioned before, in those places. B'shnot HaShloshim, by the 1930s, many Jewish people come from Germany. They will also come from other places also. And before the Second World War, many Jews will come from, let's say, the western parts of Europe, from the Ottoman places, from North Africa, and from South America also, respectively, as was mentioned before. I think, Bein Shanim 1946, 1964, there was in Peru, Mishtar Tzava'ei, there was Mishtar Tzava'ei, the army, Shelo Hakel Im HaToshvim HaYudim, Ba'ot Tkufam Rubam, HaMachriya Shel Yudim She'ayu Mufuzarim, B'Saniyot Shonot Hatzasu Be'ed Abir Alima, B'Emsa Shonot Chamishim, 4,000 Jews were in the country. I think this was by the mid-1950s. 1967. By the end of the Six-Day War in 1967, there'll be huge amounts of people that would actually make Aliyah to Eretz Israel, especially from Peru, like we mentioned about before. Lamrot shekila Yehudit b'Peru, tamid hayita ketana. So always it was a small community in Peru. Beklala rak kama alfei anashim. Always it was only a few thousands. Lo pachot mishlosha. Now it's interesting, there were 3 Jewish prime ministers or of Jewish descent. I'm not sure if they were halachically Jewish or not, but they were prime ministers of Peru, just showing the greatness of the stature of the Rabbanim in Peru. There was someone named Rabbi Ephraim Goldenberg between 1994 to 1995, Rabbi Yehuda Simon between 2008 to 2009, and Rabbi Solomon Lerner Gittis in 2011 over here also. Very interesting. So this was just a little bit of history within regards to the rabbinic history of Peru over here. So a special edition over here. And friends of our community, one thing that we're doing at the moment here on the series, we're trying to explore the history of different great countries of yesterday, especially which had some Sephardi concentrations over here. We're speaking about the South American country Peru today. We've spoken already about Afghanistan, Pakistan, and all these different countries over here so far inside this series. We've spoken about Malta. We've spoken about various other places also, Kosovo, and so on and so forth. So we're really, really doing a lot at the moment within regards to the history of the Jewish communities over here. So also what we do in this series, we're exploring who were the great rabbis of yesteryear in the various different places, Ottoman countries, North African countries, and so on and so forth. So these are things that we're working on at the moment. And so please join the community and subscribe to the channel at the moment. We are nearing at the moment 7,500 subscribers, which is a phenomenal achievement. So don't forget, please subscribe now and join our community. We want to get by next week to 7,500. Let's try and get that target, so please subscribe. And watch all the videos in the Stories of Tzaddikim section over here inside the channel. And watch this space, we just came out of Shabbat Parashat Bereshit over here this week. It's a phenomenal Shabbat. I'm coming into Parashat Noach this week. And one thing we also do on this channel here, we record tours all over Israel. We're exploring biblical Israel, the archaeology of Israel at the moment, the beauty about this country in itself. We do tours all over Jerusalem. We record tours over Bet Shemesh also, and various other parts of Jerusalem. Another project we're working on at the moment in the series is to actually record tours all over different synagogues, explore some of the synagogue services also. We record about different Talmudic academies, different yeshivot all over Israel also. That's another project that we're working on, and so on and so forth. So it's amazing over here. Just recording this from a bagel place at the moment here in Israel. So much action going on over here. So please, friends over here, subscribe to the channel now and enjoy. And just absolutely amazing. So let's keep up the great work over here. We did a special edition here where we explore the history of the Jewish community of Peru. We're going to hopefully record about other, let's just say, South American countries also. The target is to also record about Paraguay. It's also to record about countries like Brazil, Argentina. There was so much rich Jewish heritage in all these different places over here. So I just think it's very, very important. We try and encompass all of world Jewry and and so on and so forth. So friends, wishing you all Shavua Tov. Thank you for watching and take care. God bless you all. Thanks.